One of my favourite gods in Age of Mythology to play recently is Loki, and this has been my go-to build for him. A 4-minute advance time into Hersir to apply some pressure, very similar to how Loki was played in the original game. Before we get into the actual build, what's the reasons to even go for this build? So the main reason is starting off with some early Hersirs. Building a temple relatively early, advancing pretty quickly in comparison to some other builds, and getting a few early Hersirs on the field to start scouting and putting on some pressure. But why are the Hersirs so good? We rely on getting the upgrade Hall of Thanes pretty early, which gives the Hersirs a pretty big speed boost, allowing them to get up to 5.3 speed, which is pretty quick for some early units that you can get on the field. Other civilizations will need to drop stables down or something like that to get pretty fast units, but the Hersirs can be out before these stables get dropped. The idea of this is to walk into your opponent's base, either put some pressure on some villagers, force some idle time, or even just take fights without actually losing any Hersirs, because then you can use the Forseti God Power Healing Spring to bring your Hersirs back that are half HP, get them back up to full HP so they can start dealing damage again. This makes us very similar to an Egyptian player or a Japanese player that can just essentially get infinite value from units being able to heal them up. This is what we can do with the Healing Spring. The next upgrade, which only Loki gets, which is really good for this, is Eyes of the Forest. I think this is kind of misunderstood what it does, but basically it gives you so much more line of sight than any other upgrade. If you walk past some trees or a gold mine or berry bushes or anything Gaia related, you will actually get the line of sight that that unit has for a small amount of time. This can be great if you just have one Hersir running back and forth, or one of any unit running back and forth by some trees or by some gold mines. You will get the line of sight for those, and it makes it so much easier to raid your opponent and also defend against enemy raids. It's absolutely huge. If you want to go for some cheesy strategies, I believe Soup's put out a video about tips and tricks where you can do this with ox carts, because Loki ox carts are quite cheap, but it's quite difficult to pull off, but you're more than welcome to give it a try. The last reason for the Hersirs is myth unit spawns. So that is Loki's big thing. You get myth unit spawns from your army fighting. Hersirs can spawn more myth units. So if your Hersirs are fighting, coming back, healing, then fighting again, there's a big chance that you're going to spawn a myth unit in a fight. If this is Classical Age, then it's the Valkyrie, Einherji, or Troll. And basically any of them really help you out. Trolls are great for defending, so send that bad boy back. Einherjis are great for attacking, so if you have him with your army, you can speed your Hersirs up, and it can be very nice for chasing down units. If a Valkyrie spawns, you can use it for more healing on the go, or even just send that one Valkyrie into your opponent's base to just raid with. They're all good spawns, depending on what you want from it, really. It is all luck, though. You can't choose which one gets spawned. One more thing, we should go over the downsides for this build, and there is only one main downside, and it's that you don't actually get any early buildings down. So when you get up to the Classical Age, the only wood that we're spending is 150 to get Hall of Thanes, and then you basically have no wood in the bank for a couple of minutes. So you're just working off of one temple. So if you're against somebody like a Poseidon or maybe an Egyptian player that's going to go for a very early classical big push with all their units coming in your main base, this probably isn't the best build for that. Unless they're sitting back and waiting, then you can actually get some damage done with your Hersirs, build the buildings a bit later, and it's all good. One adaptation you can do is do the exact same build, not get Hall of Thanes, and then that gives you enough resources to drop either a Great Hall or a Longhouse to be able to defend, or just move one extra villager from food over to wood, maybe even a couple of villagers over to wood, and then you can get some decent buildings down. So it's very easy to swap into buildings if you really want to go for that one. Now, what does this transition into? So we're going to show up to the first about 5 or 6 minutes of the game, but where can you go from there? So if you want to go full classical, you can go full infantry if you really want to. You can go for the dropping down longhouses, getting berserks and herdmen if you're up against cavalry. And you get the berserks upgrade from Forseti, which makes them very tanky against any hack damage and can be pretty huge. That's very strong in the early classical. You can also go for a fast heroic to say get something like 10 to 15 Hersirs to run around, do some damage, defend what your opponent's doing, get to a fast heroic age, get a decent amount of units out, go for a big flaming weapons push, always can be strong. Or you can even go for a second town center. This might seem a bit strange that Norse wants to go for a second town center, but especially in team games, this can be very strong, as Norse Eco, even though it was nerfed a couple of patches ago, is still really, really good. So if you can just delay your timing slightly, go to second town center, then go into one of the above, even just build some great halls out, get some raiding cavalry, do whatever you want, and it can be extremely strong. Okay, we're on to the build order portion of this. So to start with, I paused it because unlike any other Civ Norse, you do want to build a dwarf right at the beginning. So you don't want to just auto-queue villagers. So hit left click or W on your dwarf, right click or Alt Q on your villagers to start that off. You don't have to have it paused. You have plenty of time to do it, but just to let everybody know. And then what we're going to do here is move over to the food with one. With all your gatherers, and actually build an ox cart with this gatherer. Might seem a bit strange, but what we're actually doing is we're gonna send this ox cart over to the gold mine, and our berserk, we're gonna head him into the enemy base. So our dwarf comes over here. We're gonna build this ox cart for him, and then that can move over to the gold mine, and that is him set up. He will be able to deposit in this, no issues at all. And then we're gonna get another villager out, and he's actually gonna move over here to the Savannah tree, while the berserk is kind of running over to there. What we're also going to do is grab a ox cart for him. So you can hit G. I don't know whether it's G for everybody else. It's probably W. I think I've changed that, but that's absolutely fine. And then we want to make sure before this one finishes, we want another dwarf. And this one will actually come down to the food. So it's a 3, 1, 1, then 1 on the food. And then that means that we want another dwarf over here. You can auto-queue dwarves, but then you are going to have to turn them off at some point. So I prefer to manually do them. But if you want to auto-queue them for the start, that's absolutely fine too. We're also going to be spying. Basically, anybody that's not ISIS, we're going to come over and spy. It's just nice to see what's going on. We're against China. Might as well spy the Quafu. He's probably going to be the one we're after, because he's a big unit that we're going to want to see what he's up to, building temples and whatnot. And so after that, there will be 2 dwarfs over this side. There isn't enough to actually build another dwarf, but we want another gatherer on gold anyway, because we want to be able to get 4 dwarfs at some point. But there is enough to queue one now, so we're going to queue one up. And only one goes over to the gold. That is absolutely fine. We're going to bring the next one over to the food. Something I also like doing is just grabbing 2 gatherers here and making sure that they kill 1 zebra off. You don't need to do that. If you want to min-max, then it is absolutely a fine thing to do. Once we've got our spy off, we're actually going to come back just to make sure that the berserk is back in time to build temples and that sort of thing. Our next one's going to be the dwarf going to the gold mine, so that's it. And that's enough dwarfs for now. So we've got the 3 dwarfs, we've got the gatherer over here, and we don't want to build another one, even though we can afford one, which is why I said about the auto queue, because we actually want to build a temple very, very soon. So our berserk is back in time, and when they all drop off, we are going to build a temple nice and quickly. So you can just spam T. You don't want to force drop, because we are going to have to force drop at some point in a minute, because we do want to get a dwarf out for our final guy. So these guys are carrying on, they're doing the nice food bits, and this is when we need to actually force drop. There we go. So there is 1 force drop there, which you need to do just before that, just so we get the extra dwarf out. If you don't get the force drop off, you can advance 1 villager later. It's not the biggest deal, but it's just something that you do need to keep in the back of your mind. And you shouldn't need to force drop these, but I'm going to go into just in case we don't get it, and we're going to go through Forseti. So maybe it's not the easiest build order. There are a couple of things that you really do need to do. We also need to get a house with this guy so we can build another Hersir out. And then what we need to do here is kind of fix our eco, because we have messed it up a little bit. We had a dwarf coming over here, and we need to swap these guys around. So this one's going to come back over here. I probably could have done that in a much better way. But anyway, we're going to end up with 3 coming over to the wood, 4 on gold, and then the rest leaving over on this side. So it's 6 on the food. Or if you went 1 later, it's 7 on food. That's absolutely fine. So now we just want to keep queuing Hersirs out. Hersirs are what we're here for, basically. And it might seem like we don't have much food, and that's actually because we are going to be spending some gold on villagers moving over to the chickens. So actually the first one that actually comes out, which is what I've been doing, is sending a dwarf over to the chickens. Now that might seem a little bit strange, but I think it makes sense, because if you want to get lots of dwarves out, you end up with a surplus of gold, and it's actually pretty ridiculous, and we don't really want that. So what you can do is just build some things over to gold, build some dwarves over to woods, the other one, food, and then move them over to gold a little bit later. So we've got our Hersirs here. We've got 3 of them. And these guys are going to start to have a bit of a scout around. Our guy back at home is going to be building houses. And also, we kind of do want to find some relics. So we have found this myth unit's a cheaper relic. This guy's going to have a look around. And we do want to pre-queue this Hall of Thanes, which will be very nice for us, which we will be able to get at some point. If you really want to min-max it out, you can kill the chickens very, very quickly to get that Hall of Thanes out. So we do actually have it in now. And but if you want to wait for that and not kind of min-max it, it's absolutely fine to wait. It's not urgent or anything. And actually, we should have the Berserk back home kind of building a house, but he isn't. So you can do it with a dwarf. It isn't a big deal. And here we go. We're going around. We're finding our relics. You see all the purple everywhere. We've got some relics. We've got some dudes. He's advanced to the next stage. Probably a little bit late compared to what most people will. This is where we want to start getting the guys together, because we now have 4 Hersirs with Hall of Thanes, and we can start putting the pressure on, while also getting some guys back at home in the main base. So we can drop these relics off if we want to, but I fancy going on the aggressive. So we're going to come through here, and we're going to hope to get some pressure on. I mean, I did see the spy this side, so I don't really know why I didn't go that side, but hey-ho, they should still be on the food, and they are here. And this is when you can get some good damage done. If they have their myth unit in to defend, normally if they have their free myth unit, just take that out. You get so much favor. It's very, very nice. We are going to still build out some Hersirs. And this is the point where this Hersir now can actually start to build some buildings out. We've also got our guys back here. We can put them on any hunt that we really want to. So we've got some good kills here. And for some reason, our guy is out and about. So this is when the Hersirs are going to come in and deal their pressure and start to get myth unit spawns and that sort of thing. Do you see that we're floating some resources here, which is why it's nice to get the longhouse up. We can start to get some berserks out. Will be pretty nice. I could chase those if I really want to, but the Hersirs are quite strong. I should have really pulled that one back. The Hersirs are so strong early on, so they can really get some good damage done. We see how we're doing so well. This guy, he's so low. He does need to get back. He shouldn't die to that, because that is a myth unit special. And now we're going to see the next portion of this, really, which is we can bring those over here. We can get some more buildings down. And unfortunately, I did leave these guys, and they're actually doing fine. Now, that is building the Healing Spring. So Healing Spring is so strong. It's a ridiculously good god power. And you kind of want to use it in a place that is... where are we? You kind of want to use it somewhere where if you're in a defensive matchup where you're being rushed and something similar to that, then you kind of want to use it in your main base to heal up your villages and whatever. But if you're somewhere where it's going to be really hard to push out, I like to use it where there's a gold mine and a food source, because then this is somewhere where you really want to sit. And it's going to be very, very nice to defend what your opponent's doing. These guys can actually go drop their relics off. And you see how many resources we have here. Now, you do have a choice at this sort of point. So you can have your longhouses here. You can pump out berserks if that's what you really want to go for. These guys could already be raiding and still be raiding, but we have come back to heal up. Or you can choose to drop an armory down. And you see, we're pretty close here to actually getting up to the next stage. Because all of our guys were going to food, we also had the dwarves going to the food, which we can then swap to the gold mine. There's already one on this wood line, which we can swap over. We're almost to the 3rd age already, which is so nice. For some reason, these guys didn't drop off. I guess I double-clicked the Hersirs. But you can see that the macro, I mean, it pretty much does itself. It's so nice. We can get up to the next age, and then that makes our Hersirs stronger, and it gives us access to Jarls and flaming weapons, which is basically the next point of this, which can be very, very strong. You can force drop if you want to, but I think we're going to be very, very close to it anyway, and we will be able to get through Bragi. So you end up with a 10-minute heroic age-ish. To be honest, the heroic age timing changes up quite a lot depending on how many units you build, but if you end up with 10 to 15 units, you're probably going to hit a decent heroic age timing, or you can just continue to spam units in the classical age. It's completely up to you. So that is it for the build order. If you want a link to the full game where I used this build for a 2-town center version versus Cluminati, I'll put that in the description below. I plan to continue to do more of these builds, so if you wish to support me, you can get access to this and all future builds on my Discord. If you become a Twitch subscriber or a YouTube partner, you don't have to do that though. If you just want to screenshot the build order now, you're more than welcome to do it. And what strategy or god would you like to see next? Please comment below and let me know if there's any way I can improve on these things, and I'll see you in the next one.